Hello, painters. I'm using these silicone mix cups that came with my UV polymerized resin, epoxy resin, so that you can mix paint with them and then have it be kind of a clearish color, which is a great trick, but I never did that, so I used them for something else. I took a scissors and I cut the tops of them off. And this way, these silicone cups fit down into my wet palette. And probably, if I got them high enough, maybe this one's a little low, but if I got them high enough, it might kind of help to make them not evaporate as fast, too. I wish I wouldn't have cut this one down so much, right? Or more like this one, right? So the purpose of it is so that I can have things other than paint on my wet palette. So I have determined that some of this stuff, these trees that came pre-painted, and these planks for Warcry, I can't remember the name of these things, but you can put them up across things to make like a platform in the Warcry game, are a little bit too glossy for me. So I always like my terrain to look a little bit matte. So I'm going to put some of this AK satin varnish into one of these. And if it's not matte enough, then I will add ultra matte to it, or maybe a mixture of the two, maybe 50-50 satin, 50-50 ultra matte, if I don't get the results I want. And then it'll make it look more like these things that I primed, kind of that dull sort of paint. And that's the effect that I want, more that dull effect for my terrain, because I don't want my terrain to stand out as much as my miniatures do. Then on this, I want to kind of have the opposite effect. I'm trying to make this look like marble. But I didn't have any marble, unfortunately, to look at. So I looked at the next nearest thing, which is pottery. And I assume that the same kind of effect would happen when they're cut in stone, as these surfaces would be more glossy than the actual edges, where they weren't able to polish them as much. So what I'm going to do with that is I am going to mix Flow Improver. I'm also going to mix Flow Improver with the satin varnish. I'm going to mix Flow Improver with it to make the spots where it's not brown here, where it's just gray, the large surfaces, away from the edges, more glossy. And the way that I'll do that is just put a little bit of gloss on my brush and kind of let it sit in the center and not get up on the edges of this thing. So I'll show you how it turns out. This will take a while to do, so I won't bore you with watching me do that for a half an hour, let it dry, and then do this side for a half an hour and let it dry. Maybe even the back and the front for a half an hour and let it dry. So I'm not going to make a 2-hour video of this, but I'll make a quick video showing you how it turns out. On these things, I'm not sure how well these things are primed, so I'm going to also use the varnish as a primer because it's got polyurethane in it. So anything that's not been primed, that I'm positive hasn't been primed, I'm going to mix some varnish with it. On this, what I'm going to do is take some very thick paint, this Citadel base, and I am going to well, first of all, I forgot to bring it out, but I'll mix some Nuln Oil or some dark shade. I want it black because I want to actually turn these trees more black and more dead looking. Eventually, I'll take some Nuln Oil and mix it with some varnish and put it into the crevices, really watered down. And then what I'll do is use a dry brush over the top to make some highlights. This is kind of a grayish white. I'll probably mix some more gray in it or whatever and put like some gray highlights on this thing using a dry brush. So I'll mix this really thick paint with a little bit of varnish again and use it on a dry brush. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll show you how all this stuff turns out when I'm done. But the main purpose was to show this trick so I can put gloss varnish in one, satin varnish in another, ultra matte in another if I want, flow improver in another, different chemicals that I add. If I want to do some wet blending, I can put in some retardant chemical that makes the paint dry slower if I want to try to do some wet blending or whatever. So I'll let you know how it all turns out. Thank you, painters.